Hi, my name is Rosie, and I am an adventure freediver instructor candidate. Today, I'm going to talk to you and present to you some information on the digestive system. Now, I know that you already have probably a good understanding of your own bodily system, your own guts, your own GI, gastrointestinal tract. But I'm going to present to you today some basic principles of the digestive system, but then I'm also going to tie that in with how it connects with freediving. Okay, so you might be looking at this picture going, I don't get what this is all about. There used to be a TV show called The Magical School Bus, and they used to go on adventures inside the human body. So I thought I'd use that as a bit of a template. So let's go on a journey through the digestive system. All right, so where does it begin? It begins in the mouth, and it begins before you even put food in your mouth. So saliva is stimulated when we smell food, when we taste food, or even when we look at food. And within saliva, there's an enzyme called amylase, which breaks down starch into sugars, and another enzyme called lingual lipase, which breaks down fat. So when I was an undergrad at university, I used to have this biology teacher that used to say, chew your food. Like, it's so important to chew your food. And it's true, because what happens in the mouth also has a greater impact on what happens in the guts. All right, so in that case, teeth are also a vital tool of the digestive system. We need that processing action in order to break down those foods and to stimulate the saliva. So, as I said, which you can get just by simply looking at food as well. So, we're chewing our food, lots of saliva going on, and we swallow it. So swallowing, the initial swallowing is an active process, but as soon as it passes through the esophagus, it becomes an automatic process. We can't control it from then on in. And the process that's called, like, when you say digest, it's actually peristalsis, okay? And that's a term that's used for any kind of movement of food through the digestive tract. So, where are we here? As you can see, the bus travels on onto the stomach. So when the food travels down the esophagus, and it's actually longer than what you actually think, there is a sphincter on the top of the stomach, and it releases so that it allows food to go in. A healthy sphincter won't allow anything to come back out, but when it does, that's when you get indigestion. It's when you get reflux. Okay, so people say they've got heartburn. It's because that sphincter has released stomach acids back into the esophagus. So food goes down into the stomach. Muscles within the stomach then mix the food with the digestive system, with the digestive juices. Now, those particular digestive juices are produced within the lining of the stomach. And once that goes on, it then outputs the results, which is called chyme. I'm probably saying it wrong, but chyme into what's called the small intestines. All right, so we're here. We're going to travel on down through the small intestines here. Now, there are different digestive juices that occur here. So those are the digestive juices that come from the liver and the pancreas. The small intestines also produces its own digestive systems too. Now, the digestive juices from the liver and pancreas are delivered into the small intestines via ducts, okay? Not the quack quack kind, ducts. So liver produces bile. And when it's not needed, so when we're in between meals and we are not digesting, we don't want to be injecting all the bile into the intestines if we're not going to be actually having food in there. So it's stored within the gallbladder. So the gallbladder is actually part of the digestive system too. Within the small intestines, bacteria exist. And this is why it's so important to have good gut biota. So they create an enzyme which breaks down carbohydrates into sugars that we can process for energy. Water, so it moves water, it takes water out of the bloodstream and takes the nutrients as well into the GI tract. I'll call it the GI tract sometimes because it's a lot easier to say, to aid with digestion. So it takes water to move all of the food through there, but with that water is also all the nutrients as well. So it transfers nutrients through water, and it needs the water in order to move things down. If you consider like a water slide, okay? If you sat in a dry water slide, you're not going to move. All right, put some water behind it, you start moving. It's exactly the same with the GI tract as well. So water is vital for digestion. No water equals no movement. So let's move on to the large intestines. So approximately 90% of the water in the small intestines is processed, it's used for movement, but then it's transferred back to the bloodstream with nutrients, okay? There's still 10% of this water and nutrients remaining, okay? And including electrolytes as well, which is super vital to make sure that we're hydrated. So those are absorbed back into the bloodstream in the large intestines. And within the large intestines, so it's actually quite big, as you can see, it moves all around as such. Bacteria break down these nutrients furthermore for absorption. Okay, once again, such important to have a good and healthy gut biota. And then once it's reached the end of its journey in the large intestines, what's left with is a waste product. So waste product is whatever's left over from that food processing, the food processing that can be broken down, or food that can't be digested. So I'm going to say it, corn, okay? So when corn gets through, it's also sitting there, okay? And it's turned into stool or poop. All right. So what about digestive system and freediving? How do they tie in? Well, for starters, what position are you in when you're freediving? You're upside down. All right. So our digestive system is upside down. We now have a stomach that's essentially full of acid sitting over our esophagus. So it's not uncommon for people to get heartburn and reflux when they freedive. I personally do myself. And this is where it's important also to be careful with what you eat before you go freediving. Don't be eating really fatty and rich foods. Don't be having caffeine. Don't be eating foods that are going to be stimulating the production of these stomach juices, okay? Because if you have that weak sphincter, you're going to feel it. And I do. So it's important to be careful with what you eat. And it's also important if you do get seasick. This is another element. Some people get seasick. Ugh, upside down, it can happen, okay? So I'm going to talk about something called the autonomic nervous system in freediving. And I'm kind of going a little off track here, but it's what controls what happens with your digestive system when you're freediving. So the autonomic nervous system is stimulated, or it's kind of controlled when, or it's activated when the mammalian dive response is activated. Now, we've spoken about that before. That's basically when you are in cold water, when you've got elevated CO2 and it lowers your heart rate, but it also activates the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, which are part of the autonomic nervous system. So they sit together and they're like black and white, yin and yang. They operate in two very inverse ways. The sympathetic nervous system stimulates a flight or fight. You know, if you are a gazelle at a waterhole and you see a lion approaching, it activates the sympathetic nervous system, okay? The parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite. That's rest and digest. That's when we are relaxed, okay? And that's the nervous system that activates there. So you can kind of see here, this is when we're stressed, all right? Activates the sympathetic nervous system. This is when we're relaxed and we're happy and we're calm, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And they're constantly in a battle. They're constantly seesawing because we are constantly taking in new stimuli. Now, what does it have to do with digestion? Well, the sympathetic nervous system, when it's activated, actually has a dry mouth. So what does that mean? You don't have saliva. You're not encouraging the movement of fluids and food through your digestive tract. It slows your digestion down, okay? So much so that it almost stops your digestion altogether. Food sits there in your stomach, okay? It ferments. It can cause a bit of pain. It can cause like reflux, indigestion, and nothing happens. All right, nothing happens at all. Inversely, when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, you get excess saliva. So it aids digestion. This is why some people, when they freedive, they're like, I need to swallow a lot. Your digestion increases. So there are professional freedivers who routinely poo themselves when they do a really deep personal best, okay? They almost expect it to happen. I personally know people who have pooped themselves and they said, yeah, that's what happens when I push myself, okay? It's not that they're pushing themselves too much. They were in such a parasympathetic nervous system state. They were so relaxed, they were so calm that that's what happened, okay? When you combine that with activated and non-activated digestive tract, you get a bit of a panicked attack, and that's what can happen. And as I said, yeah, can cause divers to defecate. Okay, so in one system, it activates digestion. And in one system, it stops it from happening altogether. So, well, which one is winning? Which one happens when we free dive? Well, that will depend, okay? That depends on your stimuli. It depends on your mental state. That's why we do a breathe up and we try and remain nice and calm. But if you're not calm and if you're taking in heaps of stimuli, if you're looking and you're observing and you're ready to go, then you're probably activating your sympathetic nervous system, okay? If you are trying to find yourself calm, relaxed, you've almost got your eyes closed, your whole body is relaxed, and you're forcing yourself into that relaxed state, then you're probably going to be activating your parasympathetic nervous system, and in which case you're going to be promoting digestion, okay? You're going to be getting the excess saliva, and it's also going to be increasing the urinary output, okay? We're going to spin that around because we're also upside down as well. So the hydration, let's go back to the hydration. Now, we talked about water being vital for digestion in general, okay? So we need water in order for our food to be processed. No water, no movement, but also no water, no nutrient transfer as well, okay? So water you can consider to be like a postal service of nutrients. When we don't have any water, nothing gets through that membrane. Nothing gets through, that's what we call that cell membrane in between the digestive system and the blood network as well, so the circulatory system. So when freediving, here's a bit of a paradox for you. You may be more relaxed if you're in a parasympathetic nervous system state or if it's been activated, but you lose more water through urine, okay? So it's so important to remain hydrated, all right? Especially if you're going to be freediving, you're going to be losing a lot of hydration through osmosis as well, okay? So osmosis is when you have a cell membrane and you have highly saline water on this side and you've got lower saline water on this side. There is this misconception that salts pass through this membrane. It's not, it's water, okay? So water is going to pass from the solution that's not as salty into this side to try to balance it out. We're constantly trying to reach this state of equilibrium. When we go into the water, our skin is that cell membrane, okay? So water is constantly coming out of us into seawater because it's trying to reach that equilibrium state. So if you've ever been in water long enough and it's all pruny, that's also another sign of it as well. But immersion diuresis, which is a term you might have heard, also causes you to want to urinate. So we've got the parasympathetic nervous system causes you to urinate, and immersion diuresis also causes you to urinate. Now, immersion diuresis is, this is what I was talking about, the paradox, has been known or has been found to be stimulated by the mammalian dive response, okay? But what if the immersion diuresis and the mammalian dive response are simply an artifact of you being in the water and you being relaxed, okay? And that's what's so cool. All right, that's where everything ties in together, where our mental state can directly impact our urinary system and our digestive system and our nervous system as well. All right. So, and that one's upside down as well. I love it. Didn't plan that, but it happened. And you can see here that the parasympathetic nervous system, it stimulates the urinary system to be active as well and promotes urination. So this is why it's so important that when you're freediving, not only do you have to consider dehydration from the elements, you know, if you're in the sun, if you're in relatively warm water, you're going to be dehydrated. You also have to consider the water loss through excess digestion, through excess urination. All right. So, and it's not just a case of having dehydration, but you also need to be replenishing that with salts. So this is where electrolytes, if you're if you're diving, using electrolytes is great. If you don't have access to electrolytes, the other thing is to just, you know, if you've got a liter of water, just a pinch of salt. Okay. You don't have to make it super salty, just a pinch. And that's going to release some great electrolytes, just enough electrolytes into your system so that you're going to remain hydrated. So what are the long-term effects of freediving? Are there any long-term effects of freediving on the digestive system? So, well, an active digestive system is a good digestive system. The old adage of use it or lose it, really. So often people, when they talk about like bowel issues or a lazy bowel, is when nothing's happening. You're not getting the fiber through there. There's not enough hydration through there. And your food and your nutrients are not moving. So by freediving and activating that parasympathetic nervous system and ensuring that you're hydrated, of course, you're actually causing the machine to run nice and smoothly, just having maybe a regular service. Is that what you could call it that? So if the digestive system is activated when diving, this maintains a healthy bowel and GI tract. When people talk about the causes of bowel cancer, one of them is the fact that you have food sitting in there, all right? You've got stuff sitting in there that doesn't move. Okay, so when you're healthy and you've got a healthy digestive system that's promoted by freediving, you're reducing that risk of bowel cancer as well. So the secondary effects, I thought these were pretty interesting, is that when you're a freediver, you tend to have a fairly good lifestyle. You tend to promote a good lifestyle. I know for a fact that when I'm freediving the next day, I don't want to go out drinking. I don't drink caffeine to start off with because it affects my heart rate when I freedive. But I'm also trying to make sure that I'm eating the right fuel. Okay, you become really sensitive. If you go out and you eat a hamburger or a massive big breakfast, you're not going to go out freediving straight afterwards. Okay, you're going to be like, I might have just this nice little bowl of muesli, or if I'm going out to dinner and I know that I'm diving the next day, I'm not going to eat this massive big bowl of pasta. I'm going to go, I'm going to need some protein. I'm going to need some greens. I'm going to need to fuel my body. So a good diet and lifestyle to support freediving is also gut friendly. And a healthy nervous system supported by freediving is also vital for healthy digestive system. So a lot of freedivers, this is their way to meditate. They're in a good mental health state because they have that time. Okay, it's a really nice balance. They're activating that parasympathetic nervous system to give their nervous system a break. And that healthy nervous system translates to a healthy digestive system. So this is the end of the journey. We've gone on a wonderful journey and we have gone out the bottom. So what can we summarize with this? So the digestive system, whilst can be considered a simple two-ended path, is actually rather complex, and it starts before food even enters your mouth. Water is vital for digestion and nutrient transfer. When we don't have water, we don't have a digestive tract. We don't have a functioning digestive tract, and we don't have that nutrients coming into our blood supply as well. So freediving can either inhibit digestion or encourage it depending on the stimuli and the mental state whilst diving, okay? And this is why it's so important to be able to remain calm and to be able to find a way for you to do a nice, comfortable breathe up and to remain calm whilst you're freediving. And the lifestyle of freediving encourages a healthy digestive system as well. So that's a bit of a summary as to the one organ or the one body system and how it translates and how it connects with the digestive system. So and freediving. So I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, you can scoop me an email because you're not here in front of me. But I hope you've enjoyed the presentation.